Hello, good evening, good Sunday evening, and welcome to the War Room. This is day 46 of Russia's incursion into Ukraine. Some of you may be wondering why a halfie like me, who's from South Korea and the States, would have any vested interest in a war from a part of a country that I don't have any ties to. And the answer is simple, because what we're witnessing is history. And you've heard me say this before, time and time again. And it's very rare to be able to sit there and tell somebody, I was there when this happened. I was aware of this happening as it happened. I was involved or I was engaged in this. Because growing up, I was not a student of history. I know it sounds strange because I do a lot of history now, but like if you've seen my other content for this old gat and whatnot, but I wasn't really a student of history. I was a musician growing up. And what's really strange is the person who gifted me the desire to be a musician was also the person who ruined it for me about a decade later. I'm still fascinated with music, don't get me wrong. I still try to create it, although my talent ceilings have changed. But that's where I came from. I came from music. And then after I had graduated high school and went on to college, uh, that changed. Music was taken from me my last year of high school, which I left high school because of it. I think I attended 50 days, 47 days of my senior year. And I graduated in the top 10% of my class because I still did all the work. I just showed up early and greeted all my teachers, asked what we were doing, asked for the work, and made up some bullshit excuse about having a job that I couldn't get out of. And I just didn't go to school my senior year. I walked the stage. Nobody could believe my GPA when I left, but that's what I did. And I got fascinated with the human mind afterwards. So I became the hopeful next Dr. Sidney Friedman. And I know you've probably heard me say that before. And that's another reason why what's going on in Ukraine is so fascinating to me, because if you don't know who Dr. Sidney Friedman is, I understand. Um, he was a character on MASH. Some of you may be too young for that. Some of you may be just old enough to know, or older than that, and really enjoyed it watching it as a young adult. I was a young child, and that character was very impressionable to me. Watching characters like Alan Alda's Benjamin Franklin Pierce seemed to be a guy who was literally crumbling apart because of a war that he couldn't get out of. He was stuck there. And I watched a guy like Friedman try to keep him glued together just long enough for him to get home in one piece. He did the same thing for, uh, what's his name? Sorry. Uh, it wasn't Trapper John. No, sorry. It was BJ Honeycutt. And it was him and Hawkeye that sort of put him back together, especially when he came apart about not being able to see his daughter grow up. And then obviously Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, which is probably one of the finest season finales of TV in history. And if you've never seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice. Anyway, this is the War Room. This is day 46. This is history in the making. I have correctly updated the scroller today. I did it early this morning, and I made sure I triple checked it. The photo you see in the thumbnail to the right of today's screen, I believe is called The Burning of Mariupol. And I saw it in 3 stories today, but they all spoke about the same thing. So that's where I got that. When I saw that picture, the first thing I thought of was it Pablo Picasso's Guernica? And if you don't know what Guernica is, it's okay if you're not a student of history. It was the extermination of the Spanish by Germans, a very specific part of Spain. and it was so that they could test their bombs on the new, at the time, Messerschmitt 109. But this photo kind of reminds me of that, and it's pretty heavy. And that's kind of a good representation of how the people feel. That guy there, just kind of waiting for it to either end or for him to end out in the open. It's pretty frightening. I've had several friends from several different battles, wars, and I've had several friends who fought in wars, past and present. And they all say the same thing, and this picture represents it pretty well. Anyway, it's going to be a rather short show today because Sundays are a lot of human interest stories, Saturdays as well, so I didn't have a whole lot to work with. If you're wondering why there wasn't an episode yesterday, it was simply because the internet in my area was undergoing scheduled maintenance, and it just happened to be in prime time. So if you're in the Houston area and you work for Comcast, why would you do service at prime time, you morons? Shouldn't you be doing it at like 2 in the morning when no one's really trying to get things done? Anyway, there's that. So because I had no internet to really work with, I could phone tether, but I couldn't stream, obviously. But I just spent the weekend, washing my dogs and checking tracking numbers for my early birthday present, which is still not here. For those of you who don't know, I will no longer be the answer to life, the universe, and everything in between after Wednesday. I'll be 43 instead. I know I don't sound it, and I probably don't look it, but yeah, I'll be 43. I've been talking to a friend all day today. I'm sort of his Dr. Sidney Friedman. We grew up together. I've known him since I was 7 years old. He was the first person I met in the neighborhood I moved into, which I eventually bought a house into. I was there when his father was murdered while we were in high school, and I delivered the eulogy at his mother's funeral a year ago. So you could say we have an intimate past. But anyway, we've been talking about the last 10 years, and I had to inform him that his old roommate is about to be a daddy, which is something that he and I don't really know how that works. I've always picked up where somebody else left off when it comes to children, which is not the kid's fault, obviously. So I try to do my best, which I've done several times before. Anyway, like I was saying, Scroller's updated. I have a full panel today. I've only got a couple of stories for you. So that being said, let me go ahead and just greet the chat. So I do, Scott obviously is watching the chat. Thanks for that. I've got Shady Hill, Terry Scher, and the Finest of Apes, as usual. And I'm sure other people will trickle in. Ellis always seems to come in a bit late. But you know what? It's Ohio, where he is now, I think. And I guess they work on a different time scale. Or he's got a different job, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to spare you the trouble of doing the individual introductions, so I'm just going to start bringing them all in. So here is Scott, and here is Night Strike, and here is the Warsaw Patriot. So good evening to all of you. And let's just go ahead and get into it. My goal is to try to get you guys out of here in 45 minutes or less, because Sunday show. And I've got other things to do, and I'm sure you do too. Also, I will share with you a deal. I got a rant too, actually. Let's start with the rant.
Let's start with the rant.
Instagram has been systematically removing my older posts, saying that I am violating their terms and conditions on the sale of firearms and ammunition. And then I have to dick around with their stupid app on my phone because it's not as simple just push this to rip, or was it appeal it? So the first time I did it, there was a button there, and I was like, oh cool, boop, hit the button, right? Figured I'd get to actually type something to say, yo, did you actually bother reading it? I didn't get to type anything. I just clicked a button for ask for review, and within 5 minutes it was restored, and I thought, okay, cool, right? The second time, 2 days later, I got the same thing for a different post. There was no button to review it. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find it. So, if you guys have been seeing my reloading photos on Instagram that I really take the time to sort of crop and edit and fix the lighting and everything, and they're disappearing, it's not me taking them off. It's them. They're moving the goalposts on a little tiny guy like me. Whatever, right? Some of you may know there's a guy on YouTube called the Koba 49. And I think he was either a retired Marine or retired Navy guy. But he was really angry all the time, like very angry. He just had a short fuse, which I can relate with. He is no longer on YouTube. He had gotten hit with a strike. He appealed it. He lost. He had to hold a 90-day suspension. And then he got hit with a second strike. And he said that he couldn't do his live streams anymore. And then one day he did this video about 2 weeks ago. And he was just like, I'm thinking about retiring from YouTube. This isn't the platform that I started with. Yada, yada, yada. Long rant. And then at the very end of the video, he stops. He goes, no, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done. And he just ended the video. Hadn't seen him since. And it's really unfortunate because moving the goalposts, right? I think that's the theme of the day for me, is moving the goalposts. And I hate it because before we went on air, we were talking about President Biden has got announcements he's making tomorrow regarding firearms, which, you know, never mind the fact that you are revoking Title 42. Never mind the fact that our border is a wide open, you know, it's a wide open battlefield. You know, it's like, I don't understand how allowing this is not a direct violation of his oath of office. Because first of all, everybody knows that the very definition of a sovereign nation is a well-defined, recognized, and respected border. We don't have any of those anymore. We have a line that's apparently a dotted line that does not get enforced. My own governor knows as much. He's financing the border wall in my state himself out of Texas's income. He's not asking for federal funds. And he's being stopped and stymied constantly by the federal government. He's saying, fine, if you want to let these people in, then I'm just going to bust them to you in Washington, D.C., and you can deal with it directly. And then they keep screaming at him that that's kidnapping. You're violating their civil rights. I'm sorry. The federal government has been busing people and flying people that have crossed illegally into this country wherever the fuck they want, not at the person's request. So it's okay to kidnap them if you're federal, but if a state does it, it's kidnapping? Who the fuck made that determination? Right? So anyway, we got this crisis at the border. We've got a humanitarian crisis in Eastern Europe. But the most important thing to Captain Sundown and his Vice President Cackling Knee Pads, also known as the Queen of Tells and the world's worst fucking poker player, is ghost guns, which weren't even used at the Sacramento shooting. It's like, could you imagine if there was a car accident, right? And it involved a drunk driver. Okay? Vehicular manslaughter, intoxicated manslaughter, whatever. Okay? That accident happened, and then the next week or two, the President of the United States bans tires. The fuck? They're so loosely related. And yet, that's the most important thing to that retard. Whatever. If he tries these executive order bullshit, two things are going to happen. It'll be challenged. It may be struck down. But it'll be repeatedly challenged, and it's going to make a media stink. That's the first thing. Second thing is that push that has been going on for years for the Constitutional Convention of the States is about to get a whole lot louder. And Alan Gottlieb is about to get a whole lot busier.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Problem is Alan Gottlieb's not a spring chicken.
Let me say something on that. Okay, just real quick.
Go on.
Okay, listen. If he does decide to do these whole determinations, it's not just the 80% ghost gun shit. It's literally the pistol braces. It's the suppressor shit. It's everything he's been trying to shove down our throats with the ATF without Congress actually making a law. And the problem is that him trying to implement this all at once to show people he's doing something is going to backfire, because I've spoken with people in the industry that actually make the stuff. I don't think Biden is prepared for the shitstorm he is about to unleash on himself.
He doesn't care.
Well, no. Well, that's fine. He doesn't have to care. But literally, you've got hundreds of manufacturers. You've got, the gun rights groups, and you've got the actual users of said parts getting ready to sue him.
Look what he did to the energy industry in this country on his first day in office. He doesn't care. The problem we have is there are two dictators on two different sides of the world fighting a war against their own people. One in Russia against the Ukraine, and one here in the United States against the people, the citizenry, the voting public of the United States. It's the same abuse of power. And it's the same decrepit old retards in power who don't care, because they don't have to live with the consequences of their bad policies for another 5 years. They'll die of old age. We are the punishment. We get the whipping for it. And they just die off. It's like they shit on your pillow and rubbed it into your bed, and then flipped the pillow over and walked out of the room, and then you have to go and lay in it. That's what they're doing. It's the fantasies of dying men. And we're the idiots who put them there. Now, not individually. That's not collectively. We're the idiots who put them there. The individual, you, me, most of the people watching this, we didn't put them idiots in there. Now, if you're in Utah, fuck you, because you did put Mitt Romney in there. So.
Well, that's also why he got booed the other day.
Doesn't matter. He still did the damage. The damage is done. Post facto doesn't matter. Anyway, remember this name tonight for tomorrow. Steve Dettelbach. Because he's about to become the new director of the ATF. Right now, everyone is looking for dirt on this guy. Everyone. He's not as bad as Chipman in terms of dirt, but he is as bad as Chipman in terms of trying to take away your rights. So, Steve Dettelbach, former U.S. attorney from the great state of Ohio. Maybe that's why Frankie's not around these days. She's hiding from us. She doesn't want us to know.
You know what they say about 100 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean, right?
What's that?
You know what they say about 100 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean, right?
No.
It's a good start.
Oh.
I like that.
No, I know psychology jokes. Law jokes, that's out of my wheelhouse.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
It is a good one. It is a good one. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started.
Has dirt that they're going to dig up on him.
Let's just go ahead and get this started, because like what's going to happen tomorrow, Jesus take the wheel, because we're not in control. But I can tell you at least what's going on. My first story for you today comes out of, well, Kyiv. And it hit my feed 10 minutes after midnight yesterday. So this is literally the first story of the day, 7:10 a.m. over in Ukraine. I have this photo for you. And this photo is quite important. It is a video, but I just took a still shot. Because Prime Minister Boris Johnson walked hand in hand with Vladimir Zelenskyy in Kyiv, down the main street of Kyiv, which means he flew there into an area that has Russian airplanes flying over it, landed, got out, shook hands with the president of Ukraine, and walked down the street with him. And they just had a discussion about, I don't know, life, the universe, and everything in between, right? So it says, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy was joined in Kyiv by UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who vowed continued additional military assistance in their war with Russia. He is now adding 120 armored vehicles on top of the new missile systems that he's already announced that he would give to the Ukraine. However, it's not enough, the Ukrainian president said. Of course it's not enough, because Russian aggression was not intended to be limited to Ukraine alone. The entire European project is a target for Russia. He knows that. We know that.
Yep.
Daniel's talking about the Finland thing. Trust me, we're going to get there. Promise, we'll get there. Next story came about an hour later, and it's kind of one of those post facto stories, and I wrote that it's a two-parter, but I can't remember where the second part is in this, so just bear with me if it sounds a little redundant later. In a nightly address Saturday, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy pointed to Russia's self-confidence and said that they intend to invade all of Europe. Russian aggression was not intended to be limited to Ukraine alone. Oh,
They got their hands full with one country.
Well, but he's saying that it's not. They're eyeing what's next. He's adding that the entire European project is a target for Russia. Of course it is, because he's trying to recreate the Eastern Bloc. Freedom does not have time to wait, he continues. When tyranny begins its aggression against everything that keeps the peace in Europe, action must be taken immediately. We know this. We all know this. Problem is we're not the ones in charge.
No.
Because this is the part where I can hear Squib's voice in the back of my head screaming at me. Stop trying to ask for war. Stop trying to involve the world into a war. And I understand why he's saying that. But I also understand why he shouldn't be saying that. Because this is a world war. We're just not saying it. This is a global economy. This is a global trade market. This is a global governing set of factions that try to work together, like alliances, right? Like the UN and the EU and NATO. Like there are efforts to sort of create a one world government. Now, everyone has different philosophies on how that should be done, or why it shouldn't be done. Me personally, I think it's fine if you want to do it, but if you do it, it has to be parliamentary, so that way it works like the saying goes. Government works best when it's in gridlock. Because if you think it's hard to get, like if you ever watch the UK's parliament at work, right? That's a small country in relation to the whole world. And they're always in gridlock. And so the way it's supposed to work is, it takes so much effort to get the entire group to agree that only really good things would pass and almost everything else would get killed off in gridlock. So if you want to do it, that's the way you got to do it. The problem is everyone who keeps pushing for this wants to take the lead of it. And obviously the United States, being what we are and who we are, we're always trying to be the ones in charge. The thing is the rest of the world ain't going to be cool with that. So it has to be parliamentary. Which is kind of why NATO and the EU, or sorry, NATO and the UN is like a microcosm of what they actually want for the whole world. But it's not going to work. Not until you can get everyone to stop fighting each other, first of all, and then to agree to do it. So don't even worry about that. Anyway. Why did I even go on that tangent? Fuck it, whatever. Let's move on. Sorry. So, about the same time, this came from the Kyiv Independent, and it was confirming that 7 missiles were fired into Mykolaiv. And strangely enough, nobody got hurt. But the thing is this is how Russia does Russian things, right? They tried to do this with airstrikes. Didn't work. Tried to do it with missile attacks. Mixed results. They tried to do it with just infantry. Complete failure. They tried to do it with Navy. Complete failure. They're getting desperate. And you're going to see why here very shortly, because there's a new guy in charge. The new guy in charge is the Butcher of Syria. So you can sort of get kind of get into the mind of Vladimir Putin. He's getting frustrated, and now he's turning up the brutality. If you don't know what the Butcher of Russia is, he's the reason that sarin gas was used. He's the reason why human atrocities and sanctions were raised against Russia in the first place. He's Satan. he's Russia's version of Satan. He's just going to be another dead general on the long list of dead generals in Ukraine, though. You mark my fucking words. Anyway,
he will be the 8th.
No, he'll be like the 12th or the 13th.
Well, no, of those killed in.
No, some of the lists that I had the other day on day 40, I think it was. Lieutenant General Serhiy Kysel, he was 1st Panzer Army. That was one. Vladislav Yershov, 6th General Army, removed from office, arrested, disappeared. That's 2 more, so that would have been 8 and 9. Major General. Well, these were guys in theater. It's just they didn't get top billing, so to speak, right?
I'm going strictly by KIA.
Well, Major General Sergei Nurkov, seriously wounded, later found dead. That's number 10 or 9.
Yeah, but wasn't that the guy who his troops ran him over with a tank?
No, that was a different one.
That was one of the colonels.
Let's see, Deputy Commander. Yes, even Daniel. He was like, there's 12. So yeah, Major General Andrei Syritsky. That's another one. Lieutenant General Andrei Sukovetsky. That's another one. Commander of the 49th, Lieutenant General Yakov Ryazantsev. Ryazantsev. He died. Let's see, what's the other one? Lieutenant General Mikhailo Zusk. Removed from office, arrested, disappeared, MIA. So yeah, 12. This guy would be number 13, which is the day of my birthday. That'd be a great birthday present. 13th, the Butcher of Syria, head turned into a canoe by Ukrainian sniper. Or who was that Canadian guy?
Wally,
yeah, 13th General, the Butcher of Syria. Yeah, canoed by Wally. I will buy that man a fucking case of Labatt Blue.
I'll buy him a case of Molson Triple X.
There you go.
Since you like the high test.
Maybe a couple of Crown Royal bottles while we're at it. Anyway, next story, 4:20, dude. 11:20 a.m. Ukrainian government reports 176 children officially have been killed. More than 336 have been injured during the invasion of Ukraine. Report included at least one incident of Russian troops allegedly robbing and fatally shooting a 14-year-old boy and his brother in Chernihiv. They're going to find out that the numbers that they're putting out for children killed is vastly low. I mean, just look at the differences between Russia's state TV reporting losses, Ukrainian state TV reporting losses, the UK Defense Ministry reporting losses, and then US Intelligence Agency. They're all different numbers. 176 killed, that's optimistic. I mean, if we go by man on the street, men on the ground, 19,300 troops killed, Russian troops killed, times 3 wounded. It's going to lead to another story I have for you. Just keep these numbers in mind because it's about to get a whole lot more interesting. We'll see if we can get a running wood chipper prime delivered to his head for you. Yes! Finest of apes is a man in my own interest. Alright, so let's move on. 5:23. Very, very specific time. Here's a photo. Bodies of residents in Borodyanka, Ukraine, were found after 36 days. Could you imagine what that smell must have been like?
No.
Maria Vazilenko, the 77-year-old Borodyanka resident, told the Associated Press the bodies of her daughter and son-in-law were discovered under the rubble of their house 36 days after it had collapsed. A delay imposed by Russian soldiers who allegedly did not allow residents to search for their loved ones. In some cases, the soldiers even shot at the Ukrainian civilians who attempted to search their destroyed homes. The Russians were shooting, and some people wanted to come and help, but they were shooting them. This is what she told the AP. They were putting explosives and booby-trapping the corpses of our people. Body bombs. The first time I ever heard of body bombs was from a kid that was 4 years my junior when we were in high school. I was a junior and he was an 8th grader who lived the next street over. The dude looked older than me. He had come from Bosnia and Herzegovina. He was given a refugee visa with his family because his best friend was a human shield when an IED went off, and he had to hose his friend off of himself. Not needless to say, he was also injured. He's got a really wicked scar. He is 39 today, and he lives here, and he has like a 6-year-old son now. But anyway, he's the one that told me about body bombs because somebody in his family was killed by one. I think they were trying to search for a friend of his or something. They found the body, and as soon as he laid hands on it, it just went off and killed him too. I think the other time I saw it was in... what was that movie? Green Zone? No, not Green Zone. The Hawkeye one, where he's the bomb tech.
Yeah, Hurt Locker.
Yes, the Hurt Locker. There was a body bomb in that one. That was pretty graphic too. Anyway, don't really like to think about that, but you know, war will show you the best and worst in humankind, and that's one of the worst. To put it in the body of a child too, it's just I got a special wood chipper just for people like that. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, 6:30-ish. I literally wrote 6:30-ish. And this is the troops' losses and everything. This is where this comes into play. Russia has started to recruit from discharged and retired personnel in an effort to bolster its forces following its significant losses. Now, this didn't come from the Kyiv Independent. This didn't come from anybody in Ukraine. This came from British Ministry of Defense. So, they got good spies. Recruitment will look for any servicemen members discharged since 2012. And Russia will also look to the unrecognized region of Transnistria in Moldova for additional support. Remember those guys? Poorest country in the area? Yeah, they're going to start asking Moldovans who want to get paid to fight for the Russians.
So they're looking for mercenaries.
They're starting the cutoff at 2012. They're going to pare it back to 2008 in the second stage and 2005 in the third stage. That's how desperate they're getting. They took conscripts, they took military academy personnel. Now they're taking old men. Where's the last time we heard about a national military conscripting old men and kids? I'll give you a clue. Volkssturmjäger.
No, you'll give us a clue. It's called World War II.
It's called Volkssturmtruppen.
It's called that
It's
they're
called
getting
losing.
desperate.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's the very thing that Russia has accused Ukraine of doing, being Nazis. Anyway, I gotta fix this because my freaking OCD is driving me crazy. There we go.
It always
That's better.
does.
You are correct, Daniel, and I do have that story as well. He also said that you have to remember that the Russians lost 27 million in World War II. They're used to taking huge losses. The problem with that statistic is more than 22 million of them were killed by their own countrymen as political dissidents or cowards or enemies of the state. They weren't killed by the Germans. They were killing each other. I think the figure was 22 million by their own hand. Insanity. Moving right along. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Sunday claimed as many as 19,300 troops have died since the start of the invasion. So, yeah, that's the number at the bottom of the screen. All right, so moving on. I was going to label this the story of the day. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo for this, but I don't think I do. Let me make sure. Yeah, I don't have a photo for this, but I think this kind of qualifies as story of the day. So this is right about when I'm actually getting out of bed. It's about 8:30. In Helsinki, however, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. And the Finnish government is poised to formally apply for NATO membership before midsummer, and potentially as early as May. Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin stated Friday that the country would vote before midsummer on sending an application to join NATO. Former Prime Minister Alexander Stubbs says the vote will likely happen as early as May, according to agency France Presse. I think we will end the discussion before midsummer. Stubb, however, was more specific in his prediction, telling the Associated Free Press on Saturday the government would likely vote on this issue before the end of May, just in time for NATO's June summit in Madrid. The Finns think that if Putin can slaughter his sisters, brothers, and cousins in Ukraine as he's doing now, then there's nothing from stopping him doing it in Finland. We simply don't want to be left alone again. While the Finnish public has traditionally been opposed to joining NATO, polls have showed a drastic and seismic shift on the issue following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Finland shares an 830-mile-long border with Russia, and support for joining NATO had jumped from only 26% to 60% in 44 days.
Mm-hmm.
Finland has remained wary of its eastern neighbor since the Winter War of 1939, when Soviet forces attempted to invade at the start of World War II. Finnish forces famously delivered a resounding defeat to the Soviets. Finland lost 26,000 soldiers compared to the 126,000 missing for the USSR. You can thank Samo Haya for that.
Well, he only got about 500 or 600 of them.
Yeah, but that's
Only
one man. Holy shit. I mean, if you had to put a notch in the buttstock of your rifle for every kill you got, he would have no stock left. He'd be holding a handful of matches. Anyway.
the problem is Finland doesn't have that now, so they don't want to get into another winter war.
I don't know. My friend lives in Finland. He's the crazy bastard who put volley sights on a 45-70 and can do 1,000-yard shots with it. Yeah, that crazy bastard. Anyway, NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg had stated that Finland would certainly be approved should it apply to join the alliance. Some Russian lawmakers are already offering hostile language regarding a potential NATO-allied Finland. Russian lawmaker Vladimir Divorcanov, wow, I got that right on the first try, stated that joining the alliance would be a strategic mistake for Finland, adding that the country would become a target. I think it would be a terrible tragedy for the entire Finnish people, Divorcanov said. adding that with such an action, the Finns themselves will sign a card for the destruction of their country. You arrogant Ruski fuck.
Mm-hmm. Is he aware of Article 5?
Not yet, because they're not in yet.
No, but if Finland does join...
How long has Ukraine tried to join?
Yeah,
This is year
but
8.
Finland actually has shit we want.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. It can't be just because we want shit. That's not how you become a good protector of your allies. I know what
Who
you're
said
saying.
we were
It's
good
just,
protectors?
maybe that's why the system is failing them.
Yeah.
Because they're led by profiteering assholes, so to speak.
So they're being
So are
led
we.
by politicians.
Yeah, pretty much. Gee, I wonder where they got that. I wonder who taught them that. Anyway.
I wonder who taught them that.
I wonder.
Looks at Biden and e-pads.
Well, no, they were taught that well before
This
then.
has been decades.
Yeah,
in
they were
making.
taught that shit even before Clinton. They were taught that shit probably.
In the 70s.
I was gonna say maybe. I can't say post. If I said post Carter, that would be Reagan.
Biden was
Maybe.
still a politician in the 70s.
See, like, yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Carter.
Yeah, he was talking about that racial jungle he didn't want his kids growing up in.
Yeah, and then he turns around and he speaks so highly of his Supreme Court choice.
Mm-hmm.
Funny how that works. Time heals all wounds, I guess, right?
Right. You know, it only
Apparently.
took 40 years.
Right. All right. Next story. 3:20 p.m. Ukrainian time. Way over in Ukraine. Let's see. Do I have a photo for this one? Because this is a long story too. Right here. There you go. There's Jens. Probably drives a Volvo. He looks like a Volvo man. Or a BMW guy. No, you know what he looks like? He looks like a Mercedes E-Class coupe kind of guy. He can't commit to an S-Class, but E-Class coupe kind of guy. Maybe. Anyway, I don't know why I even mentioned that. Russian President Vladimir
He looks more
Putin.
like a VW turbo diesel.
Nah, he's definitely either Volvo or E-Class.
Gotta be a diesel.
Maybe 5 Series BMW. Maybe. Wouldn't be an M car, though. He's too milquetoast for that.
Keep going. Keep going.
All right. Watch him drive a Land Rover.
I
Russian
saw that
President
tweet
Vladimir
today.
Putin might get the opposite of what he bargained for, as NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg recently suggested plans of a permanent presence of Allied troops on the eastern flank in response to the invasion of Ukraine, which is now dragged on for 46 days as of Sunday. Did I get the date right? Oh, shit. Hang on. Day 46. Okay, I did get it right. Good. What we see now is a new reality, a new form, or a new normal for European security. Oh, all right, Daniel. Take it easy. Therefore, we have now asked our military commanders to provide options for what we call a reset, a more longer-term adaptation of NATO. Stoltenberg is quoted as saying in a recent interview with Telegraph, "I expect NATO leaders will make decisions on this when they meet in Madrid at the NATO summit in June." Stoltenberg explained that NATO received a wake-up call in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, and at the time implemented the biggest reinforcement of the alliance since the end of the Cold War. In light of Putin's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, the alliance born out of the 1949 North Atlantic Treaty between the US, Canada, and European nations is shifting from reinforcement to a complete reset. NATO has since deployed an additional 40,000 troops to the eastern flank from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Prior to late February, NATO presence on the eastern border constituted more of a tripwire deterrence, meant to symbolize the alliance's commitment to defend itself from Russian attack. Part of the reset will be about deterrence by denial of defense against possible invasion of the alliance. NATO is in the midst of a very fundamental transformation. To reflect the long-term consequences of Putin's actions, Stoltenberg, who extended his term as head of the alliance, said this by a year. Regardless of when or how the war in Ukraine ends, it already has long-term consequences for our security. NATO needs to adapt to a new reality, and that's exactly what we're doing. NATO is the most successful alliance in history for two reasons. One is that we've been able to unite Europe and North America. The other is that we've been able to change when the world is changing. And now that the world is changing, NATO must change with it. Amid concerns that Russia and China are working closely together, Stoltenberg said NATO is finalizing a new strategic concept to account for Beijing having the second largest defense budget in the world. The rise of China and shifting global balances of power has direct consequences for NATO. Stoltenberg added, explaining how China has been investing heavily in new modern nuclear capabilities and long-range missiles that can reach NATO territory. So, once again, NATO is late to the party. They have, by his own admission, they've sort of turned a blind eye to the threat just to the east of Europe since 2014. And now they're desperately playing catch up. Hurry up and catch up. Because now they've got to deal with Russia. They've got to deal with Chechnya, Syria. Apparently they've been getting conscripts from Mongolia. Remember what I told you about Mongolia? Mongolia is what you get when the Russians and Chinese live within close proximity of one another and someone's going to start fucking. Yeah.
Mongolians? What the hell Mongolians doing here?
That's exactly the question that people want to know. Because they've been finding the IDs of dead soldiers that are Mongolian, strangely enough. So he's got to deal with all this, and on top of that, China, the world's manufacturer, who has made trillions of dollars in the form of liquid cash or trade deficit debts, now has the second largest military spending budget in the world. You want to guess who has the biggest?
Us.
Yeah. So, now he's got to worry about China, who has nukes, who has long-range nukes. He's only thinking that China will shoot them west, towards NATO European allies. He made no mention of them shooting them east, towards the western seaboard of the United States, or Hawaii, or Alaska, because they could very well do that too. At least he's thinking now. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to think when you got your head that far up your ass. So I guess you gotta give him a little credit. Just late to the party, like most lawmakers. Moving on. 10:35 a.m. my time, 5:35 Ukrainian time, p.m. Military and media experts said Sunday that 6 Chinese Air Force Y-20 transport planes landed at Belgrade's civilian airport early Saturday, reportedly carrying HQ-22 surface-to-air missile systems for the Serbian military. The Chinese cargo planes with military markings were pictured at Belgrade's Nikola Tesla Airport. Serbia's defense ministry did not immediately respond to the Associated Press request for comment. The arms delivery over the territory of at least 2 NATO member states, Turkey and Bulgaria, was seen by experts as demonstration of China's growing global reach. The Y-20's appearance raised eyebrows because they flew en masse as opposed to a series of single aircraft flights. They flew in a formation. Y-20's presence in Europe in any numbers is still a fairly new development. Let's look at this at face value. Serbia is not beholden to Russia. Serbia, I believe, is sort of an ally of NATO, which means China has just gifted surface-to-air missile systems to allies of Europe in defense of Russian aggression. What a mixed message. What a strange mixed message. Do you trust them? Do you believe their intentions are just or good? Or is this just, how would you put this? A dirty commie trick. Watch what's happening with my right hand while I'm picking your pocket with my left. I don't know. It's positive on the surface. It's just you have to wonder what their ulterior motives are. Very strange. That was one of the more interesting
Profit.
stories of the day. They gifted them. They didn't sell them. I'm sure
but now
there'll be a
they've got
debt.
somebody. No, but now they've got somebody that once they get the launchers, now they need more missiles.
Oh, you mean they'll be able to sell them more? Sure, no doubt. Or at least maybe sell them the licensing rights of manufacturing them.
I don't think Serbia has that capability.
I don't know.
Missile systems are very complex.
They're just rockets with warheads on the end of them.
Yeah, but the critical thing on those is the targeting systems.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they get to build them under license, they hand them the blueprints to them because it's more cost effective to do that. Then again, it's not going to be the latest and greatest either, right? It's like China's not going to send 2022's model. They're sending 2012's model. So they already have countermeasures for it.
That, and there's also big questions about China's missile capabilities. Because none of it's been used.
No, I didn't say they're part of NATO, but they're more...
They're surrounded by NATO, though.
Right, and I think they're not going to oppose NATO. They're going to offer help for NATO, if asked. I can only imagine. Now, if I'm wrong, then that's terrible, but I don't think they would do that. It's too risky. It's too dangerous. Because, like you said, they're smack dab in the middle, so...
They're surrounded by NATO, and the people that are surrounding them, some of them are part of, or were part of the Yugoslavia, and are still kind of pissed off at them.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, Bosnians still have a chip on their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Croatians probably do too. Hungarians probably do too. Romanians probably do too. Exactly. Like, it'd be a fool's errand. Anyway, let's move on. So a couple hours went by. 2:36 p.m. now, or 9:36 in Brussels. Nighttime. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who recently offered Ukraine a fast track towards EU membership, asserted Sunday that an important step forward was taken to ensure to Ukrainian soldiers risking their lives that their children will one day live in a Ukraine free of Russian rule. She did her remarks on CNN's State of the Union Sunday, which came after von der Leyen recently visited Kyiv. I think she did that 2 days ago. The EU chief presented Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy with a questionnaire, the responses to which will form the basis of an opinion to be passed on to the EU Council this summer. Speaking at a joint press conference, von der Leyen said that the questionnaire is where your path towards the European Union begins, adding that this step will not be, as usual, a matter of years, but only a matter of weeks, according to the German broadcaster Deutsche Welle. So, Finland is going to get fast-tracked into NATO, and von der Leyen's trying to fast-track Ukraine into the EU. Had they done this back last April when the buildup began, there might not have been a war going on right now. Because it's all about calling a bluff, right? If you join the UN, we're going to attack you, right? That's what Russia basically said. As soon as they said that, they should have immediately been entered into the UN. They should have been like, you know what? Your move, Skeletor. They're part of the UN.
You mean NATO?
Or NATO. Either one.
Everybody's part of the UN already.
So NATO, yeah. But the thing is like, that should have instantly happened. The prerequisite for Ukraine to join NATO in the first place, back in 2014, was to disarm its nuclear arsenal. They did it in good faith. They gave up their trump card in good faith to join the NATO. They had made themselves vulnerable to attack. with the hopes of joining the big security blanket of NATO, which they have still not been accepted into. 8 years later. It's amazing that he's not calling NATO a traitorous organization and saying, who the fuck would actually want to join you? You lie to us constantly, and you've disarmed me, and now my country's being destroyed because of it. He could lay the blame of all of this on NATO if he wants to. Maybe he ought to. Maybe he ought to.
You should shame the fuck out of him for that.
Problem is it's not going to help his people. But you're right, and I think in the dying days of this conflict, if this actually goes very sideways for Ukraine, he will. He absolutely will. Because the one thing that this conflict has done is it has created 4 generations of hatred towards Russia, right now towards Russia. The old hat, the adults, the young kids, and the next generation. They will all hate Russia. It'll be hell on earth living near the border. Well, I mean, living near the border between Ukraine and Russia after this war is over. There will be border conflicts and skirmishes for decades because of this. It'll be like the IRA all over again.
Yep.
So now imagine if Ukraine's about to die. You will have created 4 generations of hatred not only towards Russia, but towards the EU, NATO, the UN, the West, period. And then once the Russians take over and they execute anyone who matters and all the other people have been brought to heel, the Russians will be like, where is your Western savior now? Now you understand why we came here to administer you, because those people would have never saved you anyway. They will have planted the seeds of hatred in 2 directions. Zelenskyy would have every right to hate us for it, to hate UN for it, to hate NATO for it. Let's hope it never gets to that point. Moving on. Here's the next photo for you. That guy looks so dopey.
Stop being so damn depressing, okay?
Sorry, it's just the reality of it.
No. Stop. Just stop.
3:41 p.m. Also 10:41 in Ukraine. Nighttime. Russian President Vladimir Putin's reported appointment of a new general was once known as the Butcher of Syria to oversee the invasion of Ukraine is a choice that shows the Biden administration exactly what to expect as Moscow's bloody aggression continues. This came from...
Actually, that reminds me of something.
What's that?
You know, doesn't Putin still have those Syrian mercenaries over there too?
Yes.
How do they feel about him being over there?
Well, the thing is the mercenaries that he had hired were pro-Assad mercenaries.
Okay,
so
I don't care.
He said, we did you a solid. We need some of your troops.
Exactly. We dealt you a solid. You owe us.
Honestly, I didn't know.
You know how much he's paying them?
Probably Bitcoin.
No. Okay, so I heard it through the grapevine that mercenaries that are being hired by the Federation, which is Syrians, Mongolians, Chechens, whatever, they're being paid a salary of $1,200 a month, the equivalent, which is a lot of money in most of those countries. A lot of money.
Yeah, but compared to Western salaries, it's
drop in the bucket. But I mean, think about it like this. If you went to Costa Rica, right, $1 in America is worth about $5 in Costa Rica. So to say $1,200 over there, that could be saying like $10,000 in Chechnya. You know what I mean? Like that could be quite a bit. It's just, for us, it's the sum of $1,200, which $1,200 doesn't buy much here.
Standard wage.
I mean, you used to be able to jump on Craigslist and buy a half-decent used pickup truck for $1,200. That it would, yeah, sure, it leaked. It leaked, and it had a hole in the side of it big enough to throw a cat through, but it still did truck things, at least for a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. Shit, my first Jeep was $1,700. It lasted me fucking 5 years. Anyway. Let me go on. So this was all announced by soon-to-be ex-White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. For those of you who don't know, she's in the money now. She's taking a lucrative deal, which with a with the network that's very fitting for her look, PMS NBC. Yeah, that's where she's leaving to. General Alexander Divorcanov, commander of Russia's Southern Military District, was reported to be Putin's pick as the new commander to lead operations in Ukraine. U.S. officials said that the 60-year-old general has a record of brutality against civilians in Syria and previous theaters of war. Well, of course. That's what he needs. He needs more brutality to bring the country to heel. The only thing I find really funny, especially in this picture, is the color of his jacket, his suit. Because that was the same color worn by Hermann Göring.
Gray?
Yeah. Panzer gray.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the new guy. I'm sure he'll be number 13 pretty soon.
New guy ain't gonna do any better than the last 12.
That guy's been pretty sick, though. This guy gets results by unorthodox means. Anyway, we've made it to the last story of the day. So I will get you out of here roughly within an hour.
There you go.
12:42 a.m. Monday Ukrainian time, also known as 5:42 p.m. my time, on Sunday. Ukrainian Parliament member Kira Rudik, remember that woman that I said sort of looks like Anthony Kiedis in drag? Yeah, her. Has personally invited President Biden to take the bold move and walk the streets of Kyiv, just like British Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
He won't do it.
Maybe.
Nope.
No, he won't.
Oh, no, she won't. He won't. He totally won't.
He don't care.
He's a coward. Rudik told Fox News Live. Finally got you a Fox News story. She told Fox News Live on Sunday that the move would, quote, really be a sign of solidarity. On Saturday, Johnson attended a surprise meeting with President Zelenskyy in Kyiv. The photo, the first picture I showed you. Johnson's office said that the meeting was a show of solidarity with the Ukrainian people. The meeting came a day after Johnson pledged an additional $130 million in high-grade military equipment in Ukraine. Rudik called the move uplifting and very motivational, adding that everybody admires Johnson for the visit because it was probably very scary and highly dangerous. I know for sure that his security teams were advising him not to visit, but he came and did it anyway. This is what the world is expecting from its leaders, to make these bold moves, to show Putin that for every strength there will be an equal strength in return, to show Ukrainians that people are supporting our courage with their courage, to show that for every threat there are people who have no fear of that threat. She's actually a very well-educated woman. She really is. She's got a way with words too, which is cool. We're not going to do it though. There's no way. We sent knee pads, and she got as far as Romania? Poland and Romania, and she made a total hash of it.
Yeah, she didn't care.
She didn't, and she looked like a total fool. Because she was supposed to be able to take a victory lap before her. She was supposed to take that trip after the victory lap of facilitating the trade off of MiG-29s from Poland to Ukraine via Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. SecDef said no. So that deal got squashed, and she still had to go on the trip anyway because it was still on her itinerary. Made her look like a complete asshole, which is not hard to do. Put a mirror in front of her, or a camera. Then Biden decides to go back cleanup, and he goes over there. And what does he do? He eats pizza with the boys that had jalapenos in it, and couldn't speak for 3 hours later because he was still gagging saliva from the spiciness of the peppers. Again, we were made to look like complete idiots. Also remember that none of this ever happened. There was never a military conflict anywhere in the world on Donald Trump's watch. He's the last president that has had that done in recent history. Nothing happened under his watch.
This whole Ukraine situation wouldn't have been a situation under his watch.
No, this whole Ukraine situation started under Barack Obama's watch.
Yep.
Remember,
everybody has said that if Trump was still president, Putin would not have invaded the Ukraine.
Well, just remember, we have a midterm coming up in 239 days. And that's the beginning of the end for the Biden administration. You have to hope that Clarence Thomas stays on the Supreme Court long enough for sensible people to get back into power, first of all, right? And then, as much as I hate to say this, we will be witnessing history a second time in recent memory, because there's a very good possibility that the next president of the United States will be the second coming of Grover Cleveland, a split-term second president. Possibly. That's going to require us to do our part. That's going to require us to stay motivated and educated, and to remind people how important it's going to be.
My relatives are only one-term presidents.
Right now, the problem we got right now is complacency. Democrats are constantly saying 80 million people voted for Joe Biden, more than any other person in history attended this year's election. That's true until the next one.
That's why his approval rating
29%.
Is 29% right now.
But the thing is what they're saying is a red herring. It's true at face value. It was the biggest turnout in history until the next election. Then that'll be the biggest, and then the next one will be the biggest, because this country is growing. The problem is it's growing with the wrong kinds of people. See, one could argue that the border crisis could end simply by declaring war on the nations that these people are coming from. You don't have to attack them. You just declare war on them. The threat of that alone will get them motivated. Because they're using this word. It's word salad with Democrats. And it's really irritating because people buy into it. But you're buying into the lie. These are not undocumented immigrants. Okay? They're not illegal aliens either. I'll just say that on the inverse. Well, no, because alien just has a weird denotation. What they really are, and what one could argue, is a multinational invading army. Because that's what they really are. They come from many nations south of the border, not just Mexico. They're multicultural, multinational, and they are invading a sovereign territory. They are an army. They are organized. They have buses. They have routes. They have commanders, coyotes leading them. They have infrastructure. And if you can get the world or the nation to realize that they are an organized force, that they're an invading army, then you can do something about it. See, the thing is you heard me joke about MSP back in the day, the Mexican space program.
That's what I was getting at.
Right?
Come on, man.
You heard me say things that sound a bit extreme, like mine the border, right? And then the detractor to that would be, you're violating human rights. No, I'm not. I'm not violating anything. What I'm doing is I'm defending my country. I'm setting a boundary, and I'm saying you may not enter here. And I will point to the point of entry where the people who do it the right way come in and say, you may enter here. See the difference? There's no human rights violations. I'm not pushing people into minefields. I'm not forcing them at gunpoint to walk into a minefield. They're making a conscious risk assessment and decision to walk into a minefield. And if they turn into the red mist, it's their fault. I didn't force them to do it. Their dumbass was stupid enough to walk into it. Here's the best part, and I've said this 1,000 times. You only need one mine for every 100 warning signs.
Ooh.
It's true. You put the signs out there. People are
I'm
going to be
not
like,
arguing.
they're not going to take the risk. They're going to be like, nah.
Remember, I'm originally from a border state too. I understand.
I'm still in one.
You're still in one. I moved away from one, but
The
I understand.
point is,
I understand the issue and why it's such a
you
it's a crisis.
need one mine for every 100 warning signs. And
Yeah.
the fact is you get one dumbass to walk into one and turn into a red mist, and everybody that was in that same group with him are going to turn around going, fuck that, I ain't going into that country. Those people are crazy.
Yep.
That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. Not arguing.
Anyway,
I was gonna
we
mention
don't
that
have
before you made-
we don't have leadership in this country that have the balls to see it done. We also don't have leadership in this country to call out an actual impeachable offense. The border crisis. Now, my mentor's been telling me this for months, and I've been blowing him off, but he's right. The border crisis in this country is an impeachable offense. It is the deliberate undermining of national sovereignty and national security, and it's done at the highest level, the commander-in-chief. There's your impeachment. That's what a real impeachment looks like. Not some fucking bald-headed asshole Adam Schiff with his stupid bulged eyes, grave disease, fucked up face. Not that bullshit. This is what a real impeachment should look like. Unfortunately, we don't have the numbers to push it through. And even if we did, the whole process would take a year. By the time that happens, we'll be deep into the 24 election in 2023 anyway.
We last that long.
We will. We will. We'll be broke as fuck, but we will. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today, because it's kind of a short news day, and I know I've said that several times. So, unless you two have anything you want to add, like if you
Nope.
saw anything, okay. Then I guess what I'll do is...
Hashtag Mexican Space Program.
No. Human salsa. Anyway, before I play the music, I will give you an opportunity, since I've been neglectful in my duties of doing this every day, so we get to play a little bit of catch up. Do you two have anything you're looking forward to this week?
Getting some magazines delivered.
Okay.
Seeing the shit show that is tomorrow.
Wow. Bracing myself for the shit show of the news tomorrow is one thing, but it's not something I'm looking forward to. What I am looking forward to is, by some sweet baby Jesus miracle, my Oman and sober Spetsnaz blue and black urban camo trousers and jersey uniform will be here tomorrow to go with the jacket and the pants that I got, the winter stuff. And my Ukrainian patches come in sometime this week, which will go on the jacket.
I want a Ukrainian patch.
I'll send you links.
Okay.
And, well, let me make sure they're decent. If they're decent, I'll put the links in the deals or whatever, and then you can get some.
Okay.
I bought myself an early birthday present. I knew it was going to take a few days, so I purchased it on last Tuesday, I think.
Yeah.
It should be here this Tuesday. And
Yes.
I don't think I told anybody except Scott what it is. So I'm going to save it because I'll do a review. I'll do a video on it. It wasn't my first choice, but it's not a bad one. And I get to thank you for the mount thing too, which once it gets here, I'll never forget what it's called. I also have a Romeo MSR and Juliet 3 Micro combo That should be here sometime this week. According to tracking, it won't be here till Friday, which is bullshit, but whatever. And tomorrow, the optics mount and a veritable plethora of more magazines are going to get here. Oh, and before I close the show, you're not going to get the same deal I got because they changed the price slightly. I found a company called Mutiny Machine, and they have one wicked company logo. It's basically the Dread Pirate Roberts in front of the American flag. Skull and beard and tricorn hat and flintlock muskets and everything in front of America. It's awesome. Anyway, they had a deal on Norma. What do they call this? It's Norma. Shit. Hang on. Let me grab a box.
Ammo?
Well, it's got a name. Hang on. Let me pull one out. Norma Tactical. I don't know why I could remember that. 76239 brass case, full metal jackets. I was getting them for $7.29 a box,
right?
Which isn't terrible. Because they were only an hour away, I got it in 2 days. But they still have that. They have no limits. You can buy as much as you want. They process usually within 24 hours of your order. Currently, it's $9.29 a box, which isn't a super good deal. But considering that Wolf steel case is selling for $9 a box, and you can get reloadable brass case for 29 cents more, you'd be doing yourself a disservice not doing it. Then again, you have to be a reloader like me. So if you want, check out mutinymachine.com because they're kind of local to me. I'm not getting anything from them. I'm just telling you because I got a good deal, and they send a really cool decal with it too. And they've got 76239. You can get Tula, Wolf, or Norma. The Tula is the cheapest, $7.14.
Nice.
And they have, I think they have 54R also, and they also do tracers, incendiaries, everything. They got some pretty neat ammo choices on there. They're still building up their website, so they're a relatively new company. But so far, I got a pretty good deal, and I've got nothing but good things to say so far. I'm gonna put in another order here shortly because I got a bunch of new mags coming that I have to fill.
Yeah.
Actually, I ran out of 5.56 rounds too. I got to get a bunch of that because I've got those wicked new Lancer orange mags, and I got no rounds to put in them. Wah, wah. So, with all that being said, I will go ahead and play this. And I want to thank you all for spending your Sunday evening with me. Jesus, it's almost 10 o'clock. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists and see if my other interest might be of interest to you. Because I released a gun review this morning. And if you haven't seen it, you might want to. Because it was a white elk. It is one hell of a gun. And if you can find one and pay close to what I paid for it, $1,400, you'd be getting a deal. Because nowadays, I think they sell for $3,000. Anyway, this was the War Room. This was day 46. We will be back tomorrow, internet permitting. Slava Ukraini, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Slava?